Veranda Jolie in bloom. Isn't she pretty? She is pretty, isn't she, Gabe? Yeah, you remember I planted this rose out in this pot this spring. I intend to keep it out here on my patio where I can enjoy the fragrance and the color all through summer. In the winter, I'll have to put it in my garage though, because I garden here in Zone 5B, where even though the rose is hardy, the rose in a container is not hardy enough to make it through an Iowa winter. But I do have more roses on the way. The others I'm going to plant in the ground, in the landscape, in some garden beds. So I invite you to come along. The one that I have to do out here for the back is, and these are roses that are new to me. This is a relatively new introduction by Heirloom Roses. It's called Oh My. Don't you love the name? Anyway, bright red blooms. It's supposed to be very hardy, and well, I'm looking forward to that. So I have in mind a west garden bed over here, just south of where the wisteria is. Let's get it in the ground. Here we go. Now this is the spot I have in mind. Right now, as I am making this video, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But this spot has more than 6 hours of sunlight during the growing season, with sunrise at what, 5:45 in the morning. And once it clears this fence, I'll get some more sun here kind of popping over the fence. So this is what I have in mind. Because I have 3 identical hostas, what I'd like to do, see, there's so few areas here in my garden that have good sunlight and good soil, good drainage that would work for roses. But I think if I move this hosta over to a bare spot in my hosta garden, this would be a good spot for a rose. Now this, well, just an annual climbing vine. It's in a pot just sitting on top of the ground, so I can put this anywhere if I need to. But I think this could be good, and plus it could break up this duplication of color foliage here. There is a dahlia coming through here that I probably should have staked up a little bit earlier. It's not doing a whole lot, but I think if I can put a rose in here, at least I'd like to give it a try. All right, let's see what we got. First I got to take the hosta out. So let's do that. Again, digging in this area, as I've learned over the years, is a delicate endeavor, and that is because of all of the wiring in here. I've had it marked by utilities companies several times over the years, so I know where the wires are. But still, I would never use an auger in something like this, because there are just too many wires, and it's too much of a responsibility to kind of get into that stuff. So first, let's look at getting the hosta out. There's some other plants in here that have been put in that just aren't getting enough light. So that might actually help its cause a little bit. But first, this tricky part of getting back in here is not an easy thing. So I also have some wisteria kind of getting away from me over here. I'll have to trim that down. As soon as the hollyhocks are completely done blooming, then I will trim down the wisteria, because right now they're helping to hold up the hollyhock. So let's see what we can get in here. What we can get in here and do. Now hostas, fortunately, don't have a deep root zone, and these have only been in here, well, less than 2 years. This is a transplant from another spot that was getting too much sun. So I'm glad they like this spot. This is a good spot. But like I said, I've got even more moisture and more shade that they put them to good use in the hosta garden, and a couple bare spots. So let me get in there. I do have a small shovel that I can use. That's what I'm hoping. Now I may have to amend the soil here in this spot for a rose, because It's fine for a hosta, they're shallow rooted, but I tell you, for anything else, it gets to be probably not enough moisture, too many roots. So yeah, this should be nice and loose still, where I did this before. But because we are still in the root zone of big pine trees behind me from my neighbor on the other side of the fence, and my 70-year-old maple, which is just to my north here, to my left, I have to supplement and be sure to fertilize things out that are put in this garden bed, because it's maple sucks all of the moisture and all of the nutrients out of the soil. So I do need to be very careful. Okay, so there's definitely more give on this side. There we go. Glad it was rooted in, so that looks good. Okay. All right, darling. All right. See, that's a nice healthy clump. And these are super easy to transplant. You can do them any time of year, as long as you get a good wide, they're not deep, but a good wide root zone and lots of moisture. I mean, I don't even have to do anything to this. Don't have to cut it down. Just put it in the landscape there and keep it watered. So let me get you a close-up view so you can see what we're working with. It does stay pretty dry here. Let's see what we can do. I need to loosen this up a bit. Yeah, real loose and yeah, strangely loose. Okay, I'll push the mulch away. Let's get this. So not necessarily deep or just deep, but roses need a nice wide root run to grow. Now, in previous years, I've seen significant ant beds in this area. See, now that's exactly what I was talking about here. I don't know if you can see it, but this is an electrical wire for landscape lighting. And I know that it goes in this area, so that's why I have to be careful. Now, there's a tree root right there. So I'm going to come a little bit farther this way. The complicating matters is, I think I told you at some point, my neighbor here on the west side of me, they're a lovely couple. They've been in their house maybe, I don't know, 6 years. And they made a lot of wonderful improvements. And they know one of them they have to do, like sooner than later, is replace the fence right behind me, because it's been failing for, 10 years, and we all have dogs. We want our dogs to be in our yards, not bother anybody else. I mean, my Chihuahua, please, you know how it goes. So, yeah, that's one of those things we have to stay on top of. So, there's a tree root. So that's probably, I imagine, to one of the pines behind me. And there's another big tree root right there. So this is an interesting little pocket. So fortunately, this is a young rose and it can grow into this space. But if I had like a, 5-gallon, 10-gallon, something like that, nice mature plant, it wouldn't fit. Because it's just, see, there's some nice dirt down in there. But this is so fried because of the trees and the root competition. This is all like roots. Those little hair-like roots, that's what sucks up a lot of the moisture and nutrients. I mean, that's the tree's job. It's been here 70 years. So that's how that works. Okay. Some little hairline roots I can remove a little bit. Okay. Now I don't want to get it too close to the fence because you do get rain effects from that, Specifically, you miss out on a lot of regular rain because the fence, no matter where it's situated, kind of prevents rainfall. It's just the way it is. Oh, that's a nice big old rock. Okay. Now I think that's a nice planting pocket, but let me, zhuzh it up a little bit. I think that'll help. So I do have some rose planting soil from Heirloom Roses. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to take those out. Put some of that in there. Put in some more worm castings. That can't hurt. Bone meal. Some mycorrhizal, which helps with the root development. And last but not least, some dry aged cow manure. We'll just finish the bag. I've had this for a year now, so. Okay. Now I'll mix that all together, put the rose in there, and water it well, and the whole thing shall be done. All right, here we go. Excuse me. Oh. Mix it in there. See, I've also got an ivy coming through here. I think that was an escapee from a container a couple of years ago. It's kind of, I don't know, it's popped over from the neighbor's fence. In this zone, we don't get it too much out of control, frankly, but I know there are many states that really struggle with ivy, and it's how destructive and choking it can be. All right, here we go. So this is Oh My. I'll put the soil back in there. Okay. Now, as you can see, that's actually at a good level that we have. I want to make sure we've got some of the good stuff that I'm mixing in with it, as well as its native original soil. So, see how it's right there in the sun, as far north as I can, as far east as I can get it, away from the fence, the better. Okay, it's right there in the sun. Now, for roses to grow, they need, at least 6 hours of sun. 8 is better. This spot gets sun from sunrise, because it's morning sun from, which is really the best, sun from sunrise until roughly 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From there, it's in dappled shade. But what that means is they won't dry out or get too harsh here. It's a nice, sweet spot, and there's only a handful of them in my dry shade garden to find the good spots, I can tell you. Okay, bring some of the mulch back over. And this is shredded cedar bark. So it's some good, otherwise pricey mulch. And we get this put down every year. It does help with the composition of the soil. All right, there we go, Mama. Okay. All right. Put this here. Now I do put rocks. I'm in the habit of putting rocks around my newly planted babies because squirrels love newly dug soil, and squinnies too, eastern chipmunks. And they'd love nothing more than to put a new cachet of nuts right around this, which of course can toxify the soil. So you don't want that. All right. There's the tag from this. And I'll need to put a tag in there. All right, let's water. Last step. Okay. This is about 2 gallons of water. And it's all soaking in. That shows how thirsty this soil is. Now, a newly planted rose like this, you have to be very careful about how you fertilize it because you can burn the roots. Now, I know there are a lot of garden challenges you might follow that you see, and you see them sprinkling or putting all kinds of fertilizer when they plant it and after they plant it. But I mean, seriously, you can burn the roots there, so you do need to be careful. All right, last step is rabbit fencing. Okay, there's one. So we'll speed this process up because this was sort of fiddly. I just like to put thread some dowels through rabbit fencing, and just enough to give some space for this rose to grow so it doesn't grow through the fencing. And you know, by the time this is all tucked in, you won't even notice it's here because the plants will grow up past it. Now, just to put the hosta in this blank spot in my hosta garden. It was a nice big healthy clump, and it has a little bit taller stature than some of the others back here. So first thing I had to do is clear away about 2 inches worth of chopped wood mulch, and again, have to always be careful whatever I'm digging back in there. So I just use my little hori-kori knife. And this soil is nice. This is where I dump a lot of used pots at the end of the season and spread the soil around, and it just decomposes naturally back into the landscapes. In the process, though, I did find a small hosta hidden in that foliage. So I replanted it towards the front of the hosta border. And I think the colors here will be a nice contrast to Curly Fry's hosta there on the left and the others above. Then, of course, I have to put in the bone meal and worm castings and arranged it in a nice healthy clump, put the soil around it. And, of course, the last step is always plenty of water. Now, there's a lot more root competition here, but again, this is a pretty small plant. Now, the other rose, I thought about initially planting here. I want to hide that drainscape, but it honestly doesn't get enough daylight. Maybe a good 3 hours of sun, intense afternoon sun, but the spirea actually has the best location of sun in this particular new rose bed. So I thought, there are other plants I could probably put, like a catmint or something colorful that will complement my geranium walk. Some nice colors, get them in here. So whether that's geraniums in that other corner, I don't know, but I'll keep looking because I want to continue the theme. So instead, I realize I do have some spots in my rose garden. There are a number of places here, including this one. I would love to have a little bit of distraction from that pipe up against the side of the wall there. So the main thing is just, parting some of this salvia. Now I've got bright red roses here, a white rose there, the baptisia, and of course the big clumps of salvia. So I just, it is time to continue to thin those because they just get overgrown. So I will just clear up some of this dead foliage from the previous year. I'm not sure what that plant was, but probably a black walnut that the squirrels buried last year. So I took that one out. And this soil, as I scraped away the dead foliage and some of the mulch, it was surprisingly, I had some bulbs in there those are alliums, tulips from last year, some daffodils, and a lot of them were fairly close to the surface. So I do suspect some of my little diggers, my eastern chipmunks, wreaking havoc in here. But the soil was surprisingly friable. You know what I mean? Like thin, sort of sandy, not like my typical soil. I don't know, do you have this? Now, I haven't seen jumping worms, but I hear this can be the result of their work. If you have jumping worms or something like that, let me know. So I cleaned a lot of this out. It is obviously well-draining soil, but it's not the heavy clay that this garden bed started out being. So I did add some aged cow manure in this spot, along with, yes, bone meal and some additional worm castings, and then positioned the rose in there. I mixed it all in together. And again, this is going to be my Eden climber. So soft pink, vigorous climbing rose. I think it'll be a nice contrast here between all the red roses that I have next to it.
So reposition the soil again and firm it up. That's the main thing. Make sure the roots get contact. And I do have some mycorrhizal that I put in there as well. And the name tag, I have ordered an engraved name tag, so I'll put it in there. But in the meantime, I want to remember what this rose is. Okay. Job done. And water, 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 water. And of course, the last step that I always do is to put some rabbit fencing around something new like this, because those little stinkers are just looking for fresh foliage. And very soon this will have a fresh new blush of brand new leaves. And that's just a calling card to rabbits out there. They want to munch it. So I did put rabbit fencing around this as the last step. But look at the water soak in. This area is so dry. So I kept watching it until all the water was gone. And you can see it could probably take a lot more water, but I bet I put 2 gallons in here just to set it up. Now, the next step, as I was planting that rose in this garden bed, I noticed the seeds, those seed pods of the wisteria. And I saw a couple of them on the ground, so I really don't want it to reseed here since a neighbor is going to replace this fence very soon. I thought, well, I'll trim back part of this wisteria, a hard prune, where I can. I'm not going to do the whole thing yet, but I can at least take some of these seed pods out and prune it down to the 3rd node on the shrub. So a nice hard prune will be great.
Well, I feel good. I feel like I got 2.5 jobs done. Pruning the wisteria being the half job. I still have to finish it, but I'd rather have this hollyhock finish blooming first because it's holding it up, and I think that works pretty well. Well, and I also still have another rose to plant for that big driveway container, the one I was waiting on for 2.5 months. I finally got notified that the order was canceled, so I had to start from scratch again. So that will be next week. So I hope you subscribe and we can do that together, plant up some more pretty things. Hey, every day outdoors, gardening is a good day. That's my thought. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you subscribe so we can keep track of all these fun projects. And I'll see you soon. Bye.